So welcome back to the channel. In this video, taking a look at Celsius, also some BlockFi updates, and FTX, who are always in the mix here with potential mergers and acquisitions, but mainly focusing on Celsius here. And over the last 24 hours, there was the live stream between Rob of Digital Asset News, the channel we're on right about here, and Simon Dixon from Bank to the Future, who has 3 potential proposals going forward as to a recovery plan for Celsius. So really important stuff here. To bear in mind, you want to go and watch both of these videos here. The initial interview they did where Simon goes through the potential plans, and then also the Q&A. So a huge community Q&A there, over an hour in length, where Rob and Simon went through community questions that have been posed around Celsius and the path forward. So very, very interesting stuff. Simon's credentials go back to the fact he runs Bank to the Future as CEO. Bank to the Future has a 5% equity stake in Celsius. And so what he's doing here is really trying to galvanize community support and the Celsius investors around the globe to really rally their support and get them, a bit more vocal here, due to the fact what they can do here through Bank to the Future having that 5% stake is call for a shareholder meeting, but they want all the investors to put their hand up and say what they think is the best path forward, which of the 3 options potentially they want to run with, and really have something tangible to take to Celsius in that shareholder meeting, which I believe would potentially have some of the advisors from these kind of bankruptcy firms, the lawyers, etc., involved with as well. So what's being done here by Simon is all about galvanizing the community via social media. So if you can play a part over on Twitter, sharing these YouTube videos, etc., that is very helpful, and using some of the hashtags. Hashtag depositors first, I believe, is the hashtag that he's put forward. As in his own words, Simon says that the quieter or the longer things go on here, the quieter the community becomes. People lose faith in any potential, resolution to things. And that's where the kind of predatory offers can sneak in, because if community faith has waned so much, the community is essentially the most valuable thing behind any of these lending protocols, whether it be BlockFi, Voyager, Celsius, etc. The potential for future monetization of these communities is essentially what drives the value right now. So you can do your part by following along on social media, sharing posts, tweeting out yourself, etc. So here is the actual hashtag he's using. But Simon says this: to the Celsius network and community, imagine all depositors were to be made whole, hashtag depositors first, and you were treated identically under each option. Would you prefer to take your money, run, and Celsius to close down, the Celsius team to return and continue operations, or the new team and new brand to be taking over here, and merger and acquisition style, someone else taking the bare bones of Celsius and trying to run it themselves? So this could be some of the potentials that are put forward by this guy here, SBF of FTX, or CZ of Binance, or Chris from Crypto.com. But this is where it gets interesting. Simon says, would you be willing to take the huge hit from the FTX official team? Though, as they have shown, they are only looking for predatory JP Morgan style transactions. They allegedly declined Celsius network as the hole was too big, just adding information to help you choose. So this goes into 2 things here. One being this released statement. Well, not really a statement, this is kind of rumored, but there's no smoke without fire here. FTX had talks with Celsius over an acquisition, but walked away on account of a $2 billion hole in the lender's balance sheet. So making it quite an unattractive investment to make when there's $2 billion of missing funds. And secondly, this, which is all about the predatory terms. So this was kind of confirmed by CoinDesk earlier, but then Zach Prince, the CEO of BlockFi, had a bit of a rebuttal here. Lots of market rumors out there. I can 100% confirm that we aren't being sold to FTX for $25 million. I encourage everyone to trust only details you hear directly from BlockFi. But as you can see from this, Simon is predicting that there has been, this kind of deal maybe pretty close to what's actually going to happen here for BlockFi. And he says a 99% haircut to shareholders of BlockFi. Even if this is true, or even if it's just 90%, it's not a good result. Bank to the Future could have done better if they had more time. So it seems Bank to the Future was behind a bit of an offer here to help BlockFi through a bailout, maybe utilizing the Bitfinex style that Simon is trying to pursue for Celsius. But it seems time was just not on their side, and they couldn't get a deal done in time, and it looks like the FTX team have been all over this one. But as he uses the term here, predatory from FTX. So they are hunting the carcasses and looking for good deals in the market. Mergers and acquisitions being the name of the game right now. They've got the money and they're able to, really pick people apart here and get good value for themselves and not so much for the end users or specifically shareholders. Most people probably come under the category of depositors, not equity holders. This is why Simon's going for hashtag depositors first on socials. So within this interview he did with Rob, he talked a little bit about his own personal fortune on there, tens of millions of dollars being locked into the Celsius platform. And of course, they have advised Celsius in the past and done some Series A, and they were going to do a Series B round for Celsius through Bank to the Future as well. So he's got a lot of skin in the game here and wants to see the most positive resolution for depositors and thus shareholders. He sees the two being hand in hand due to the fact if depositors are made whole, then you still have a community, you have value there, and this can lead to share value. Otherwise, if depositors are screwed over in what could be, the bankruptcy, Goldman Sachs style of events that have been rumored, you don't really have any shareholder value left at that point. So Celsius did put out another post over the last 24 hours, but it doesn't really change too much here. And as Simon mentioned within the video, this is the kind of thing you're going to expect. They can't really expand on too much right now, and it's going to be a lot of legal talk. So it said this: across Celsius today, we're focused and working as quickly as we can to stabilize liquidity and operations in order to be positioned to share more information with the community. So their mandate here is to protect and preserve assets and explore the options available. But it says these options, and this is a little bit new, include pursuing strategic transactions. Could this potentially be OTC's sale of staked ETH maybe, as well as restructuring of our liabilities among other avenues. These exhaustive explorations are complex and take time, but we want the community to know that our teams are working with experts from many different disciplines. So doesn't say too much, but reading between the lines, it does seem that a lot of options are on the table right now, and there seems to be a little bit of a power struggle between what the Celsius board want and maybe what TradFi want here. And there's a few things around the hodl mode and emails being sent out that I won't go into in this video because it's a bit of hearsay, but maybe doing some of your own research on Twitter may lead you to some answers on that one. Here we have this from Simon. So, having spoken to many who are capable of writing checks the size I believe Celsius needs, it's my belief that non-depositors and non-shareholders will only give predatory offers. So hashtag depositors first means community solutions with upside potential. So he's on the warpath of let's not let the TradFi route take over. We don't want to go down bankruptcy routes. We want to have a crypto native solution. So that could possibly be the Bitfinex style, getting some equity, security tokens being issued, that kind of thing. We discussed this in a video on my channel. I'll leave it just above, but more information can be found out about that as well. But essentially this leads us to banktothefuture.co. This is the website Simon has now put together to try and show the various proposals that they want to take forward to Celsius's team, and also for you to have your own say down here, where you can actually, for the first time, actually have your kind of concerns put forward in a formal way that will be, read through and put together by the Bank to the Future team, and then they'll take this to Celsius with these kind of observations. So you can fill in the form. Are you a depositor? Are you a former team member even? Are you a shareholder at Celsius, etc., etc.? How much do you have on the platform? And please provide any details of any support you would like to give so you could have a hands-on approach. and what would you like us to consider in the recovery plan. So this is an important form to fill out, I believe, as this will really shape the way forward here. After so much radio silence from Celsius, which is clearly a legal issue, they can't be out there speaking, doing AMAs, etc. This is your first chance to really have your say. But going back to the three options. So 3 proposals being put forward here by Bank to the Future. Proposal 1 is a restructuring to relaunch Celsius and allow depositors to benefit from any recovery through financial engineering. As it says, this involves risks and a full recovery of funds is not guaranteed. That is a common theme here. Proposal 2 is a pool of the most influential whales in Bitcoin to co-invest with the community. See the previous Series A fundraise that we completed for Celsius here. So this could require quite a lot of funds to actually be raised here by community members like yourselves, but also by some BTC whales. And this is similar disaster recovery that they offered to Bitfinex in 2016. The case study video is live on this website as well. And then proposal 3 is an operational plan that allows a new entity and team to rebuild and make depositors whole. It's not clear whether Bank to the Future would be very hands-on with this. This could potentially be them, rebuilding and rebranding, or whether it would be an external FTX, for example, or if CZ and Binance step up to the plate, that kind of thing. But as it says again, this involves risks and a full recovery of funds is not guaranteed. If we just go a little bit further down, hashtag depositors first, make sure you use that one on Twitter if you want to get involved in the conversation. I do think this kind of galvanizing of community support is going to be very important here. This is something they've made quite clear. And I would say, reading between the lines, there's conversations between Simon and Alex Mashinsky of Celsius. And so some of the things he talks about within these videos and this kind of, wanting to get the community's voice heard, maybe the kind of, echoings from Alex himself and speaking through Simon. That is kind of the idea that I had when I was listening to that. The approaches so far that they've taken, so the first approach, they took steps to silently give this kind of strategy forward to Celsius and their TradFi advisors to execute it within a timeline as to how fast this needs to happen. That's the kind of Bitfinex style recovery, and he suggests this need to be done ASAP. Approach 2 then had to be taken due to the fact things weren't progressing swiftly enough. So they offered to execute this strategy for them externally, but Celsius and TradFi wanted them to work internally with the team. But he says, we believed acting independently is more important and more likely to produce a better result for depositors and shareholders. He wants to keep his distance from the kind of internal, I think he's been offered a seat on the board here, but I think that would pretty much gag him at that point over on socials. So I think his job is better served with a bit of arm's distance from the internal organization here. And then finally, the third approach is what is actually happening right now. They went public, worried that time was running out, and now they want to hear from the community before we request our shareholder meeting to Celsius. As they have that 5% stake, it seems that is what they are lawfully allowed to have, or should be required to, at least have a sit down here with Celsius's team. So that is where this leads us. The next steps are pretty much to fill out the form, make as much noise as possible over on Twitter and other social medias, and to try and galvanize community support here. They have a few beliefs that we'll just sign off with here. Belief 1 is that we believe all attempts should be made to make depositors whole in order to maintain shareholder value, because if depositors are not reasonably satisfied, then shares may be worthless. This is all about community support. Belief 2 is that we believe TradFi will seek to profit from depositors' losses, may take too long, and may lack the experience to use financial innovation. Essentially, TradFi could make Celsius go down the bankruptcy route and just liquidate all assets. You would literally mark the bottom of the bear market at that point, with BTC just being sold off in tranches, causing capitulation, etc., the worst possible outcome. So belief 3 is we believe that business as usual will not exist in the yield markets in the future due to all of these things that have just unwound over the last month, and Celsius's services are likely to be classified as high-risk securities and not low-risk saving accounts. And so the future of yield will be securities with risk disclosures, suitability tests, and investor protections. And Bank to the Future, funnily enough, have been working on this over a 2-year period in producing what is believed to be a security law compliant vehicle for investing in yield, which was being beta tested with Celsius already. So Bank to the Future are the best people in a position to put forward these strategic moves. From all the avenues that I've read into, these guys are the only ones who seem to be really cheering on for the depositors, which is the category that the majority of people are going to find themselves in. And if depositors are at least made whole, even if it's like 90% or maybe 75%, etc., this is going to leave a better taste than all the retail investors getting absolutely nuked here by this blowing up and by going down a bankruptcy route, TradFi taking over, etc. That is going to be the worst case scenario. And so I think Bank to the Future, Simon Dixon have our backs here, and this is the best road to recovery that we have seen thus far. So support welcome on anything on social media to do with Celsius right now. Go and check out Simon's Twitter feed just over here, Simon Dixon, at Simon Dixon Twit. I'll leave his page down below. Give him a follow and make sure you retweet in some of the good stuff that he's doing right now. Not all heroes wear capes, may I add. So hope you enjoyed this one. Subscribe to the channel, help me out, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.